Hey, did you hear the joke about the tomb? Why did the disciples not stay at the tomb? It's because there was no body there. When Jesus rose from the dead on the third day, there were three different encounters where people had a hard time believing that he was alive. Peter and John were the first ones. They heard from Mary that the stone was rolled away and that the tomb was empty. So they ran there and they looked in and they couldn't see anything there. And they went away confused and started to put some pieces together based on what Jesus had said before. And then Mary, she's sitting there and she's crying because she doesn't know where Jesus' body was taken. And she turns around and then Jesus is standing right there, except she doesn't recognize him. She thinks he is the gardener. Jesus, I love how he plays dumb here. He just says, "Who are you looking for?" And Mary says, "I'm looking for Jesus. I don't know where they put his body." And she doesn't recognize him until the moment that he says her name. And so when Mary recognized his voice, when he said her name, she believed that he was alive again. Later on, there's a guy named Thomas. He was one of the disciples, and he failed to understand and believe what other people had been saying, that they'd seen Jesus alive. And he said, "I'm never going to believe it until I'm able to touch the wounds that he suffered on the cross." And so later on, Jesus shows up in the room with all the disciples, and he has this one-on-one conversation with Thomas, where Jesus says, "Stop being doubtful, believe in me." Later on, the disciples are out on the water, they're fishing, and these disciples have been on the water all night long, haven't caught a single fish, and Jesus shouts to them from the shoreline, "Have you caught anything?" And they just shout back, "No." So he tells them to fish a little differently, and they bring in this huge catch of fish. And even though they don't recognize him physically, they knew that it was Jesus because of what he had done in their lives. And so that really speaks to us now. I really believe that we can see what God is doing around us. We can see what God is doing in our lives, so that we don't even need to see his face physically to understand that he is there.